Okay. Okay, well, Jim, it's very nice to meet you again. I think we met in Singapore about 12 years ago when Singaporean government invited you, your wife, and me, my wife, and a couple of other couples, because I think they wanted some foreigners who live there to consider applying to become a citizen. And I made the decision to become a Singapore citizen, which was not an easy choice for ethnic Korean.
I know.
And since then I moved to Hong Kong and then finally relocated back to Korea.
So you're back in Korea?
Yeah, with my wife, and my kids are abroad, and I think you told me you should have sent your kids to China.
Well, everybody has to decide for themselves. So
welcome to Korea and welcome to Sampro Studio. And do you know what Sampro means?
I have no clue.
So Sam means three.
Yeah.
So it's an abbreviation for three pro professional. So it's the most impactful YouTube in Korea, focusing on financial economic news with 2 million subscribers. And it was co-founded by three professionals, Mr. Kim, Mr. Chung, and Mr. Lee.
So that's why three. I got it. Now I understand. Yes.
I've searched your activities recently as part of my preparation, and I found that you provided some seed capital to one of Korean entertainment platform companies, and I heard that your two lovely daughters, they love some Korean songs and they support Blackpink, which I like them as well. So is it an area that you got very interested? Was your daughter convinced you to put some money into this space?
My daughters introduced me to K-pop and to K-drama, about which I knew nothing. To make a very long story short, yes, a little bit of capital, not very much. And yes, I do see great possibilities for Korean culture in the future. It's already boomed, as you know. It's not as though it's brand new. Hopefully it will continue.
Okay.
Hopefully Korea will continue and open up and become more and more exciting.
I think Netflix, one of the most popular program last year was a Korean miniseries called Squid Game, which was very popular across the world. So I think it just underscores how some of the Korean contents have become very popular with audience outside this country.
No, there's no question that Korean culture, call it what you will, has had an enormous impact, an enormous success. Let's hope it's not over.
I know many Singaporeans also love watching Korean drama, so.
Not just Singaporeans, all over the world, yes.
Okay. How do you see the world these days? I mean, I know you have been quite bearish. You have criticized some of the mistakes or very late in the game by the central banker. So are you more worried than before, or is the Fed and other central bankers too late in the game to put a brake on the global economy?
Well, first, quite bearish. I'm not quite sure what that means. What I have said is the next time we have a bear market, it's going to be very, very bad. I don't know when it's coming.
Okay.
Maybe you know when it's coming. I don't. But when we have a bear market, and we always have bear markets.
Sure.
We always have. 2008 we had a problem because of too much debt. Well, since 2008, the debt everywhere has skyrocketed.
Exactly.
So the next time we have a bear market is going to be very, very bad.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm not short yet. I haven't sold. I'm still in the market to some extent. But I am worried about the next time. Now, the central banks are the problem. They have printed huge amounts of money, staggering amounts of money, and run up very high debt. And that's one of the reasons the next bear market's going to be so bad, because there's so much debt, because these guys keep printing money. It's causing inflation, which is going to cause interest rates to go higher. And when we have a problem, it's going to be very bad.
So if when we have a next downturn, it will be much more serious than a lot of us are anticipated or prepared to
It will
take.
be the worst in my lifetime. 2008 was bad enough,
Okay.
but since then the debt has skyrocketed everywhere.
Uh-huh.
So the next time it's going to be a
It'll be
serious
pretty
problem.
bad. So you should really be very careful in your portfolio, right?
Everybody should be very, very careful and should become very knowledgeable to prepare themselves. Yes.
So I know you had a spectacular performance when you were young and when you leveraged to invest. I know you don't have a big team that collect and provide information. So how do you generate ideas and how do you source information? I know you are not active in the market. Probably some of your positions are more long-term.
Well, I read a lot. The best, for me, that's been the best way to, I try to figure out what's going on in the world. And so I, hopefully, when I see something changing in the world, I get involved. I mean, I recently invested in Uzbekistan because I think I see major changes taking place in Uzbekistan.
Some like commodity plays.
No, well, partly commodity play. Yeah. Of course, commodities will help, but Uzbekistan has a lot of commodities.
Sure.
But Uzbekistan will have huge tourism as well. So there are other things happening there. But it's essentially reading or just walking down the street and trying to see what's happening, trying to see if there's some kind of change somewhere.
So you're still very curious, do a lot of readings and make an observation.
And I listen to my children.
Okay.
They taught me about
Sure, that's true.
K-pop and
Yeah,
K-drama.
yeah.
So yes.
Okay. So various kind of information and you don't really have anybody professional
No.
who helps, okay.
I have, unfortunately, in my career, nearly always when I listen to someone else, I lose money. So I have learned I better do it myself. I can make my own mistakes. I don't need to listen to other people's mistakes.
I mean, I read a couple of your books, right, in Korean, and I remember that you were telling people that you should really base your investment decision based upon your experience. Don't try something that you don't know, you don't feel comfortable with, right?
Only invest in what you yourself know a lot about. That's what I have learned.
And your two lovely daughters are a very good source of information.
I learn a lot about the world from my daughters, yes.
I mean, I could tell, I watched the YouTube and they have grown up a lot.
Oh yeah. I tell them to stop growing up, but they don't listen. They keep growing up.
And I think as they become more financially independent, then probably
Well, they still need me. Someday they won't. I hope. But so far, they're doing fine.
What's your view on commodity? I know you created a commodity index bearing your name. You've been a big bull of the commodity, particularly soft commodity. There was a pretty long bear market before a recent recovery. So do you think we are at the beginning of the new big cycle?
If you go back and look in history, we've had long bull markets in commodities and long bear markets in commodities. I mean, it's not unusual. It always has happened this way. We've had so much money printing in the last few years that leads to higher prices. It
Sure.
always has. And if you own the things that go up in price, you do well. And if there's inflation, the price of food, the price of clothes, the price of everything goes up. So whether we like it or not, in my view, it's a time to own real things or commodities.
So generally speaking, we say stock market is a good way to hedge in the inflationary environment, but commodity is more a better way.
No, commodities are a much better way. Yes, if you get the right stocks, but often when there's inflation, stocks go down. But when there's inflation, the price of wheat goes up. You know, the price of silver goes up. So nearly always when you have inflation, commodities are a better place to be than stocks.
I mean, if retail investors in Korea, they want to listen and follow your advice, what's the best way? Is it better to choose a very broad commodity ETF, or what's the best way to play the real asset long-term scene?
Well, if you know what you're doing, the best way is to buy commodity futures.
Okay.
Because you can get rich in a week,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
or you can go broke
But
in
it's,
a week.
it's very volatile.
Yeah,
as we
extremely.
know, right?
Extremely. If you don't know what you're doing, stay away.
Uh-huh.
Many studies have shown that index investing, ETF investing, is the best way. It's cheap. It outperforms most investors most of the time. So yes, a commodity ETF makes it very easy for everybody to invest in. I use them myself, so I hope I'm doing the right thing.
Have you visited China recently? I know you come back to Korea quite often, and China has been under lockdown for quite a while, even Hong Kong. And you have been quite positive about Chinese economy, and what's your take on the current situation?
Well, the last time I was in China, I was in Wuhan.
Wuhan, okay.
In January of 2020. I knew about the virus, but I didn't know what it was going to lead to. So I haven't been to, as you said, China's been locked down for the most part. It's difficult to go there. But China continues to be a very vibrant place to invest. They will have setbacks. They're having a setback now. Too much debt, too much speculation.
That's true. Yeah.
But, America became the most successful country in the 20th century. But along the way, we had some horrible, horrible times. Depressions, civil war, riots in the streets. So China will have problems, but I'm still optimistic about the future of China. It's the place to be in this century.
So if we take a step back and look at China, have a long-term horizon, there will be short-term downturn volatility, but over long term, it will still create a lot of growth and opportunities.
As far as I can see, I see no other country that's going to be as important in the 21st century as China. Korea, once you open the DMZ, Korea is going to be very, very exciting once you open the DMZ.
Yeah, I mean, that's
nothing will compare to China.
Yeah. I know that with the two Koreas being united, it will be a very powerful base for the industrialization, a huge market, a lot of opportunities.
I don't even necessarily, you don't have to even have unification, just have an open border. If you can have trade and commerce.
Like Germany did in the old days.
Yeah. People going back and forth, then it could be very, very exciting. Unification, that's up to the Koreans, but just opening the DMZ, in my view, will be very, very exciting.
I know some institutional investors, due to what has been going on in China, whether it's the policy changes, some of them consider Chinese equity to become less investable. So you don't agree? I mean, long term,
when you hear talk like that, it's usually a time to buy. When people start saying, it's impossible. I mean, I still own Chinese shares. I'm looking, haven't bought anything recently, but when I hear people say a country is impossible, but sometimes it is. North Korea has been impossible for decades, but normally when people talk like that, you should start thinking about investing.
I mean, when I read your books, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are generally positive on Korea, China, and conversely, you're less positive on Japan and perhaps India. And is that view still valid? Is that how you look at the Asia?
I own Japanese shares, but Japan has got serious, serious problems. The population has been declining since 2010. And it's going to continue to decline, and the debt is going through the roof.
True,
So Japan is, if you're 10 years old in Japan, you should leave or learn martial arts, because it's going to have serious problems in the next few decades. I own Japanese shares at the moment, but in the long term, it's very, very serious. India, if you can only visit one country, you should visit India. but it's not a well-run country. It's got a horrible bureaucracy. Whatever there are many ethnic groups, that's part of many religious groups, many linguistic groups. I love the country, but I'd rather invest in China than in India.
I know we have a very serious war in Europe. I hope it ends quickly. I mean, from a humanitarian perspective, it just costs so many lives. Do you worry about any possible war in Asia, whether it's between mainland and Taiwan? I think who look at the macro risk, I mean, they look at some of the possibilities. Are you worried about some of the imbalances in the Northeast Asia?
You always have to worry about things like that, especially things that come out of the blue. Of course I worry about it. If I were China, and I'm just saying, if I were China, I would just wait. Because if you look at a map, you can see that Taiwan is going to be part of China someday. Someday maybe far down the road. So I wouldn't bother if I were China. The war would not be worth it. But I'm not China, so who knows what they will do. But I always have to worry about things like that. You know, if somebody does something foolish, you have war, and war is never good for anybody. Even the people who think they win wars, nobody wins a war.
And nobody wins, right?
Nobody wins wars, no. It costs money, lives, capital, infrastructure, everything.
We have a new administration coming next month. It was a very tight election between the current ruling party and opposition party. I think Biden will visit Korea in the next couple of weeks. So hope that diplomatic relationship between the two countries becomes more closer. So do you have any tips for the new incoming government, what Korea should do?
Well, of course I do. The main problem in Korea is the American Army. The American Army tells you what to do. If I were the Koreans, I would tell the American Army to go away and let us run Korea. We've been here a few thousand years. You've been here 70 years. We can do without you. That's what I would do. Now, I'm not Korean, so I cannot tell you what to do. But as long as the American Army is here, it opens more possibilities of war for you. And if there's a war with China over Taiwan, you're in the war.
Exactly.
You're in the war because the American army is here.
So become more military independent.
Yes, that's what I would do. You know how you spend huge amounts of money on defense?
I know.
North Korea spends huge amounts of money on defense. Can you imagine how much money you would have if you didn't spend all this money on tanks and guns? And North Korea, the whole peninsula would have huge amounts of money.
Do you have any tips about the demographics? I think when I, like almost 40 years ago, when I sat for the national college exam, there were 1 million students who competed with me for a spot in college. And now last year, there were about 270,000 infants born. So there's been about 75% decline in natural population. So is there, and I think that's a very long-term serious threat for this country, because we will have a fewer number of people in this country, particularly in terms of the labor force.
You do have a serious demographic problem. You have one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and that's a problem. In my view, opening the DMZ would help that, because one of the reasons you have a low birth rate is people don't like babies when there's a war, a possibility of a war. So if you open the DMZ and everybody's coming and going, you probably have a lot more babies. You have a shortage of females in the South. They got a lot of females in the North. So it would solve a lot of problems, including, in my view, you would have a lot more babies in a unified, peaceful, and prosperous Hanbando.
I mean, young people, we say, are too busy to get married and have time for kids, right?
Well, I felt that way myself for many years, but in Korea, it's compounded by the possibility of war.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's always a little bit worried that everybody alive in the Korean Peninsula today has worried his or her whole life about getting killed. And then that we have a whole new mentality. You'd probably have more babies, which would be good for Korea and for the world.
Yeah, yeah. One last question or a comment. So, for 2 million or so subscriber of Samfro or a general public, will be very interested to hear what Jim Rogers want to say. Do you have any remarks, particularly related to investment? Because I think most of the audience would be those who are participating in the financial market. So.
Well, the first thing is, I repeat, invest only in what you yourself know a lot about. If you want, don't listen to me, don't listen to hot tips. Stay with what you know and you will be a successful investor. Some people say, well, that's boring. Be boring.
And you can avoid a mistake by following what you know, right?
You will certainly avoid many mistakes if you stay with what you know. That's the most important lesson. If you look at disasters, I think in Korea you have a word that means disaster and opportunity. The pandemic, everything has caused problems. Transportation, entertainment, restaurants, lots of things have suffered badly. They're usually opportunities in times like that. I mean, we're going to fly to New York again someday. We're going to fly to London. We're not going to take boats. We're not going to stay home. So there will be opportunities from these disasters. If you know about some of these things, I would suggest you look at them and maybe you'll find investments.
So just don't simply chase after what something's hot or take a really independent view and be objective, maybe some contrarian views.
Well, everybody has to find their own way, but yes, that I would agree with every word you just got through saying, yes. But I've known some people who are great short-term traders. They jump in and out all the time. I'm very bad at that. But whatever your way is, that's successful. Figure it out. Took me a while to figure out how I was good. But once you figure it out, stay with what you know and succeed.
Yeah.
This is not an easy way to make money. People think it's easy. It's not easy.
I think investing have become more comfortable and easy because I've become more almost to 60. When I was young, there were so many temptations. You get attracted to, invited to different opportunities, and you're lost with what kind of choices I have to make. But now I have a little wisdom that which probably along what you said.
Experience and wisdom will teach you a lot, yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, Jim, and I hope you have a productive schedule here in Korea, and hope you have a safe travel back to Singapore. And we look forward to having you next time.
Thank you, Namu. I like Korea very much now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.